Hello, hello, hello! A massive welcome back to all our dedicated listeners here on the Daily English Dialogue YouTube channel. I'm Anna, your guide through the intricacies of the English language.
And I'm Mark, your fellow traveler on this journey to fluency. Whether you're listening to us on your morning commute, while cooking dinner, or perhaps while running on the treadmill, we are thrilled to have you with us.
Today, we have an absolute beast of a topic. It is a topic that I think resonates with 99% of our audience. We've titled this episode, Stop Thinking, Start Talking. But honestly, Mark, we could have called it, How to Stop Being Your Own Worst Enemy.
That is the perfect subtitle, Anna. We are talking about that specific, agonizing moment when your brain freezes. You know the feeling. You're in a conversation, someone asks you a question, and suddenly it feels like your mind turns into a messy filing cabinet where you can't find the right document.
That's a great visual, the messy filing cabinet. And instead of just saying something simple, you stand there silently, rummaging through the files, looking for the perfect grammar structure. Today, we are going to dismantle that habit. We are going to go deep into the psychology of why we do this, and we have a very special listener Q&A segment later in the show, plus a live role-play demonstration.
I'm ready for it. Let's dive right in. Anna, let's start with the root cause. Why do smart, capable adults who can discuss politics and philosophy in their native language suddenly feel like children when they speak English?
It's a phenomenon often referred to as the gap between passive competence and active performance. Think of your vocabulary like an iceberg.
Okay, I'm picturing an iceberg, like the Titanic.
Hopefully with a better ending. So the massive part of the iceberg under the water represents your passive vocabulary. These are the words you understand when you read a book or listen to this podcast. It is huge. You know thousands of words down there.
Right, and the tip of the iceberg, the small part sticking out of the water, is the active vocabulary.
Exactly. That is the vocabulary you can instantly recall and use in a sentence under pressure. The frustration comes when you try to drag the huge bottom part of the iceberg to the top instantly. You want to use a sophisticated word you read in the New York Times, but your mouth only remembers good or bad.
And that creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. You have a self-image of being intelligent, but your output sounds simple. That conflict causes stress. And what does stress do?
It shuts down the language centers of the brain. It triggers the fight or flight response. When you're terrified of making a mistake, your brain prioritizes survival, not grammar conjugation.
There's another analogy I like to use, Anna. I call it the nightclub bouncer.
Oh, tell us about the bouncer.
So imagine your mouth is a nightclub. You want the words to come out and party, but inside your head, there's a bouncer standing at the door. His name is Mr. Grammar.
I think I know this guy. He is strict.
He is incredibly strict. Every time a sentence tries to leave your mouth, the bouncer stops it. He checks its ID. He says, "Wait, is that a preposition at the end of the sentence? Denied. Hold on, did you use the present perfect continuous correctly? Let me check the rule book."
And while the bouncer is checking the ID of your sentence, the person you're talking to is just staring at you, waiting.
Exactly. The line to get into the club is not moving. We need to fire the bouncer, or at least tell him to take a coffee break. We need to lower the filter.
This brings us to the golden rule of today's episode, and honestly, it is the most difficult concept for high-level learners to accept. It's the accuracy versus fluency trade-off.
It sounds like a battle.
It is a battle. In an ideal world, we would have 100% accuracy and 100% fluency. But the brain has limited resources. Especially in spontaneous conversation, you often have to choose. Do I want to be perfect or do I want to be connected?
That is a hard pill to swallow for perfectionists. Many of our listeners are engineers, doctors, or business leaders. In their jobs, accuracy is life or death. You can't make a rough estimate in brain surgery.
Exactly. And they bring that zero-error mindset into language learning. But language is not surgery, it's music. Mark, imagine you're watching a pianist perform.
Okay, I'm listening.
If the pianist hits a wrong note but keeps playing the rhythm and keeps the melody flowing, do you stop listening?
No, I probably barely notice it. The song carries on.
Right. Now, imagine the pianist hits a wrong note, stops playing, apologizes to the audience, goes back 3 bars and plays it again, then hits another wrong note, stops again, and sighs frustratingly.
That would be a disaster. The magic is broken. It's no longer a performance, it's a rehearsal.
Precisely. When you prioritize accuracy over fluency in a conversation, you're turning a social interaction into a rehearsal. You're killing the music of the conversation. Linguistics calls this communicative competence. The goal is not to produce a perfect sentence. The goal is to transfer an idea from your brain to mine.
I love that analogy. But Anna, I have to play devil's advocate here. This is the question I know our listeners are screaming at their screens right now.
Go ahead.
If I stop caring about accuracy, won't I develop bad habits? Won't my mistakes become permanent? This is what teachers call fossilization. If I say, yesterday I go, every day for 5 years, eventually I won't be able to fix it.
That is a valid, legitimate fear. Fossilization is real. However, the research shows that fossilization happens when you stop learning, not when you practice fluency.
Can you elaborate on that distinction?
Sure, we're not saying abandon grammar forever. We're saying compartmentalize your practice. When you're doing grammar exercises or writing an email, you should have your accuracy filter set to high, scrutinize every verb. But when you're speaking, you must dial that filter down to low.
So it's like a slider on a sound mixing board.
Exactly. It's the context slider. If you're in a high-stakes job interview, maybe you slide it towards accuracy. You speak slower, you construct sentences carefully. But if you're chatting with a friend or a colleague at lunch, slide it all the way to fluency.
And I suppose the problem is that most learners have the slider glued to 100% accuracy all the time.
Yes, and that is paralyzing. You need to practice what I call strategic negligence.
Strategic negligence. That sounds fancy. What does it mean?
It means knowing which mistakes matter and which ones don't. If you drop the S on a third-person verb, he work here, it's grammatically wrong, but does it confuse the meaning?
Not at all. I know exactly what you mean.
So, ignore it. Let it go. But if you use the wrong tense, I will buy it, when you mean I bought it, that confuses the timeline. That's a mistake worth correcting.
That's a very helpful distinction. Don't sweat the small stuff. Articles, prepositions, singular, plural, these rarely cause a breakdown in communication.
Exactly. We suffer from the spotlight effect. We think the listener is shining a bright light on our grammar, analyzing every error. But in reality, they're pragmatic listeners. They're just trying to get the information.
They're listening to the content, not the code. Perfectly said. They want the signal, not the code. So the takeaway for this segment is when you open your mouth to speak, your priority is flow. If you stumble, don't stop. Don't apologize. Just keep the rhythm going. The errors will clean themselves up over time as you consume more English, but you cannot fix them in real time without destroying the conversation. So, we've established that we need to relax our standards for accuracy. But Anna, simply relaxing doesn't actually put words in my mouth. Are there technical ways to bypass the brain's processing unit?
Absolutely. If relaxing is the mindset, chunking is the mechanic. This is arguably the secret weapon of every polyglot I know.
I've heard this term thrown around, lexical chunking. It sounds like chopping vegetables.
In a way, it is. It's about preparation. To understand why this works, we have to look at how the human brain processes information. Mark, have you heard of Miller's Law or the magic number 7?
Vaguely. Is that the idea that we can only remember 7 things at once?
Exactly. Our short-term memory, our working memory, has a limit. We can hold about 7 items in our head at one time. If you try to hold more, the system crashes.
Like a computer running out of RAM.
Precisely. Now here is the problem. If you view every word as a separate item, a sentence like, I was wondering if you could help me, is 8 words. That exceeds your RAM limit. Your brain has to work incredibly hard to glue those 8 separate bricks together.
And that's why I stutter. I'm running out of bandwidth.
Yes, but if you learn that entire phrase as one single chunk, one unit of sound, it only takes up one slot in your memory. You have 6 slots left for other things.
That is fascinating. So chunking is basically data compression for language learning.
That is a brilliant way to put it. Instead of building a wall brick by brick, word by word, you're using prefabricated panels.
Okay, so give us some concrete examples. What counts as a chunk?
There are a few types. First, you have fixed phrases. These are social scripts, things like, long time no see, how have you been? Or, fair enough. You never analyze the grammar of long time no see. It's technically grammatically incorrect, but you accept it as a whole unit.
Right. I don't think, is that an adjective modifying a noun? I just say it.
Second, and this is where students struggle the most, we have collocations. These are words that naturally live together.
Oh, this is my nightmare. The make versus do war.
The classic battle. In English, we say make a decision. We do not say do a decision. Why? There's no logical reason. It's just how the language evolved. If you try to translate from your native language, you might choose do, but if you learn the chunk make a decision as one item, you never have to think about it.
So the strategy is to stop learning words in isolation.
Yes, never write the word decision alone in your notebook. Always write make a decision, hard decision, reach a decision. You need to learn the words neighbors.
I like the visual of neighbors. It reminds me of another concept I read about called islands of fluency.
Oh, I love that concept. Explain it to the listeners.
So imagine a conversation is a wide river you have to swim across. If you have to swim the whole way, you'll drown, get stuck. But if you have islands of fluency, which are these big, memorized chunks, you can swim from one island to the next.
That is a beautiful metaphor. You can rest on the island.
Exactly. Let's say I want to express an opinion. I can struggle to start, or I can jump onto the island of, if you ask me, it seems that...
Boom. That is a 6-word island. You land there, you catch your breath, and then you just add your opinion at the end.
And there are chunks for everything, right? Chunks for agreeing, chunks for disagreeing, chunks for stalling.
Stalling chunks are crucial. We call them filler chunks. Phrases like, at the end of the day, when all is said and done, or what I'm trying to say is, these are long phrases that mean very little, but they buy you 3 or 4 seconds of thinking time while still sounding fluent.
It keeps the rhythm going. It's like a drummer doing a drum roll while the guitarist tunes his guitar.
Yes. So the homework here is to become a chunk detective. When you are listening to a podcast or watching Netflix, stop looking for new words, start looking for combinations.
Don't just underline rain, underline heavy rain, because we don't say strong rain.
Exactly. Heavy rain is a chunk, strong wind is a chunk, high traffic is a chunk. Master these combinations and your brain's RAM will thank you. You'll stop processing and start flowing.
Okay, Anna, I think we need to demonstrate this. Let's do a little role play.
I love it. What's the scenario?
I'm going to be a student who is overthinking. I want you to ask me about my weekend. I will show you what not to do, then we will pause, and I will do it again using the techniques we discussed.
Perfect. Action. Hey, Mark. Long time no see. How was your weekend?
Oh, hey, Anna. It was actually really good. You know, I went to the mountains with my wife and her family. We did some, walking up the big hills. It was great. To be honest, I'm a bit tired today, but it was worth it.
Cut. Okay, Mark. That was a million times better.
It felt so much easier. I didn't say hiking, I said walking up big hills.
That is circumlocution, describing the word you don't know, and you used you know and to be honest as fillers to keep the rhythm going.
And notice I didn't say sister-in-law. I just said wife and her family. It's less specific, but it kept the conversation moving. You didn't really need to know the exact family tree relation, did you?
No, I just wanted to know if you had a good time. You satisfied the social contract. All right, let's move on to our listener Q&A segment. We asked you on Instagram to send in your specific situations where you freeze up. We have a few great ones here.
Who's first?
First up, we have Ricardo from Brazil. Ricardo writes, "Hi, Anna and Mark. I work for an international tech company. My English is good, but in meetings with my American bosses, I stay quiet. I have great ideas, but I'm afraid that if I speak, I will sound unprofessional or make a grammar mistake, and they won't respect me. So I send my ideas in an email after the meeting. How can I stop this?"
Oh, Ricardo, I feel for you. This is the classic imposter syndrome mixed with language anxiety.
It is. And the irony, Ricardo, is that sending the email later might actually hurt your career more than a grammar mistake would have.
I agree. In Western business culture, specifically American culture, visibility is key. Being present in the room and contributing in real time is often valued more than a perfectly written email sent 3 hours later.
Exactly. My advice for Ricardo is to use signposting phrases to buy confidence. Ricardo, you don't need to give a long speech. Start with a structured phrase like, "I have a thought on this," or "from my perspective."
Also, Ricardo, remember that in international tech companies, people are used to non-native speakers. They're interested in your technical expertise, not your preposition usage. If you're a coding genius, nobody cares if you drop an article.
Here's a technical tip. Prepare your entry strategy before the meeting. Write down 3 generic sentences you can use to interrupt politely, like, "Sorry to interrupt, but I think point X is really important." If you have that written down, you just read it. It breaks the ice.
Great advice. Speak early, even if it's just to agree. Say, "I agree with that," in the first 5 minutes. Once you break the silence, it's easier to speak again. If you wait 30 minutes, the silence becomes heavy.
Okay, next question. We have Yuna from South Korea. She says, "I love talking in English, but I hate my accent. I feel like people judge me because I don't sound like a native speaker. I spend so much time thinking about pronunciation that I forget what I want to say."
This is the accent trap.
Yuna, listen to me closely. Accent is not the same as pronunciation. Pronunciation is about clarity, making sure people understand the word. Accent is your identity. It's your history.
Some of the most powerful people in the world speak English with heavy accents. Think about Arnold Schwarzenegger or Antonio Guterres at the UN. No one questions their intelligence.
Exactly. The goal is intelligibility, not nativeness. If you're over-focusing on the shape of your R or L while trying to formulate an argument, you're multitasking, and the brain is bad at multitasking.
Yuna, try to shift your focus from "how do I sound" to "who am I helping?" If you focus on the listener and the message, you stop obsessing over yourself. It's an act of generosity to speak. You are sharing your thoughts.
Beautifully put, Mark. Don't hide your voice. Your accent is charming. It shows you speak 2 languages, which is more than most native speakers can say.
I want to pivot slightly to the physical aspect of this. We talk a lot about the brain, but speech is a physical act.
It is. It involves the diaphragm, the throat, the tongue, the jaw.
When we get nervous, when we start overthinking, our bodies physically tighten. Our shoulders go up, our jaw locks, and our breathing becomes shallow.
And shallow breathing tells your brain, we are in danger. This creates a feedback loop of panic.
So, strangely enough, one way to stop thinking and start talking is to breathe. Before you enter that meeting or start that conversation, take a deep belly breath. Exhale longer than you inhale. It physically forces your nervous system to calm down.
Also, we should touch on cultural context. In some cultures, silence is a sign of respect. It shows you are considering the other person's words deeply. In other cultures, like the US or UK, silence can be awkward.
Right. If you come from a high-context culture like Japan or many Arab countries, you might be programmed to think deeply before speaking to avoid offense. But English, generally speaking, is a low-context language. We value directness in speed.
Understanding that this is a cultural clash, not just a personal failing, can be very liberating. You aren't bad at English, you are just adapting to a different communication rhythm.
We're coming to the end of this extended episode, but we can't leave our listeners without some homework. We need to give them a tool to break the thinking cycle.
I have a suggestion. It's the voice note diary.
How does that work?
Most of us use WhatsApp or Telegram. Create a group with just yourself. Every day, record a 60-second voice note. The rule is you cannot delete it and you cannot re-record it.
Ooh, high stakes.
You hit record and you just talk about your day for 1 minute. If you stumble, if you make a mistake, if you pause, you have to keep going. Then hit send.
And then, do you listen to it?
You can, but you don't have to. The exercise is about the production, not the analysis. It trains you to push through the mistakes. It trains you to realize that even with mistakes, the story is understandable.
I like that. It builds the keep going muscle. My challenge for the listeners is the synonym game.
What's that?
Throughout your day, look at an object, say a car. Immediately try to name 3 other ways to describe it: vehicle, automobile, transport. Or hungry, starving, famished, ready to eat.
This builds that circumlocution skill we talked about. It widens the neural pathways, so if one word is blocked, you have 3 backup roads to take.
Exactly. It prevents the traffic jam in your brain.
Wow, we have covered a lot of ground today. Let's do a quick recap for our listeners who might be feeling overwhelmed by all this advice.
Sure. 1. The bouncer. Fire the internal editor. He is stopping you from entering the party.
Accuracy versus fluency. Accept that to be fluent, you must be willing to be imperfect.
Chunks. Don't build walls brick by brick. Use pre-made panels like, I was wondering if.
Circumlocution. If you can't go through the front door, the perfect word, go through the window. Describe the word.
Physicality. Breathe. Relax your jaw. Tension is the enemy of speech.
And remember Ricardo and Una. You're not alone. Every single person who has learned a second language has felt that freezing sensation. The ones who succeed are not the ones who know the most grammar. They are the ones who are brave enough to speak despite the fear.
Perfection is a shield. It protects you from judgment, but it also isolates you from connection. Put the shield down. Connect with people. That is why we learn English.
Beautifully said.
If you found value in this deep dive, please consider sharing this episode with a friend who is also learning English. It helps us grow the community.
And leave a comment below. Tell us, what is the one word or grammar point that always trips you up? Let's commiserate in the comments.
Thank you for sticking with us for this longer episode. We appreciate your time and your attention.
Keep practicing, keep talking, and stop thinking so much.
See you next time on Daily English Dialogues.
Cheers.